Hello there. It's an especially broad-ranging selection today in our sports paper roundup. Let's begin in Spain with Aragonés, who is, yes, AragonÃ, the former Spain manager, the man who made everything tiki-taka, passing away last weekend. And as Marca put it, goodbye to the mister, the man who worked the miracle of Spanish football. With you, everything changed. And across Spain, a similar reaction underlining how Aragonés was a massively cherished figure in his home country, like Sir Bobby Robson and Sir Alf Ramsey rolled together, with a little Ron Atkinson thrown in, perhaps, for of course he was also notorious abroad for the remarkably racist-sounding comments he used on that one occasion in training. In Spain, though, he was a legend. His El País, goodbye to a genius and a real character. El Mundo, goodbye to the man who made us champions. AS, calling him the man who changed the pessimism that had always plagued our team with his daring decisions for Euro 2008. The headline there, Luis is gone, the Reds remain. Paper also saluting his hero status for Atletico Madrid. As the thesaurus-tastic editorial says inside, he was a symbol, a myth, a legend, and the history of Atletico. And Atletico, of course, as fate would have it last weekend, went and won the very next day to go alone on top of the Liga for the first time in 18 years. Marca, they reached up to heaven. Adds the paper, if only Luis had been there to see it. Perhaps he was. Now, on to other news and an update on the week's big controversy. Foreign owners with spicy backgrounds rolling in to exploit long-suffering local fans. I refer, of course, to David Beckham, who this Wednesday turned up bold as brass in Miami to tease the locals with tales of how he's going to have a team there at some unspecified date in the future. Well, to describe the locals as happy with this is an understatement. The Spanish paper of Miami, Diario Las Americas, for example, with Beckham scores historic goal in Miami. But while they were putting the Florid in Florida, across town, they were a little bit more restrained at the Miami Herald. A Miami wins soccer deal, but first they need to build a stadium. They report an inside a fascinating account of the impact of brand Beckham on the local scene by one Greg Coates. Says Greg, if LeBron James is a bigger star around these parts, it isn't by much. Indeed, it was comical and embarrassing to watch so many shameless reporters all but swooning in Beckham's company on Wednesday, storming the stage even for a closer photo of their man. It was all perfectly choreographed, continues Greg, except for the small propeller plane that kept circling overhead with a banner, Beckham, don't trust the mayor. A reminder that in this town, sport and politics are never far apart. Still, the columnist is anything but sceptical about the franchise's prospects for, as he points out, Miami Fort Lauderdale had the lowest US ratings for last week's Super Bowl, but the highest ratings in America for the last World Cup. In this town, we prefer our football with a round ball, and it's easy to understand why the English heartthrob has targeted Miami for his expansion team. Well, Florida, eh? They send us the Glazers, we send them Beckham. Let's see who comes out on top. Now, if David needs a hand with this new football business anyway, he can always call on Massimo Cellino, who's himself a Miami resident, when he's not taking over Ellen Road, of course. Now, Lord only knows where Massimo's pioneering takeover attempt will have reached by the time you watch this, but amidst all the preemptive axings and mystery signings, interesting perhaps to hear the views on him from the two main Italian sports papers, the Gazzetta dello Sport and the Corriere dello Sport. The Gazzetta, extremely dubious. Their editorial, but in England, do they really know who Cellino is? They cite here his checkered past, his frequent brushes with the law, his, if you will, Cagliari charges, and conclude by saying, it's as the old expression goes, money doesn't stink. Corriere take the opposite view. He's been at Cagliari for 22 years, they say. OK, Cellino knew nothing when he began, but he has governed their finances in an impeccable manner, despite the many problems he's faced in Sardinia. He is a difficult man, but a lot more competent than others. And you must admit, says the paper, he's a trier. Well, amidst all this, far more than what happens with Leeds, the Italians are really concerned with what's next for Cagliari. Tuttosport, indeed, have a story here. Cagliari for Galliani. Yes, Adriano Galliani is about to take over the Ireland club. I thought Festa was going to Leeds. All parties, though, deny this. And personally, I've still got my fingers crossed for this man taking over the Sardinian club. Wouldn't that be ironic? Anyway, while we wait for further developments, that's it for this week's look at the papers. We'll be back next Friday. See you then.